Anyway, this isn't about that. This is about Ace Attorney. Yeah. We're doing it. I didn't stream yesterday. Oh, it's gonna be loud. Sorry, I just whoop right down there. Yep, we're good. I was gonna stream yesterday, but then I didn't because I was just sick enough to where I was like, I didn't wanna blow out my voice because I'm gonna have to do the Randy Savage voice. And it's gonna be a fun time. Where's my controller? I like using the controller. I don't know why. I like using the control. I like using controllers for most games, just in general. It just feels righter. It's fine. I could do it. I have to do it. Oh yeah. Oh gosh, we have to finish this stuff. We have to talk to him and then talk to what's her face. Yeah, I forgot that we stopped early because it was already overtime. Mr. Armstrong. Ah, good timing. I was hoping to find you here. We'd like to ask you a few questions.
Well, he hasn't got anything to say to yous, fellas.
Ah, it's Shin Eop. Zine Oop.
Who you calling Xenoop?
Ah! I'm out from under the table already, Maya.
Okay, hand it over.
What?
Yous wanna play games with me? I don't recommend that. The medical papers, now.
Uh-oh. I think he wants Viola Cadaverini's papers back. You mean this? The $1 million medical papers? Miss Cadaverini trusted you. That's why she said that she helped you.
Forget about it. That girl's dumber than an eggplant. Yous wanna know what's sad? I'll tell you what's sad. And it ain't only her face. She thinks she's got power, 'cause she's Bruto's little girl. Now that's sad.
I can't let you have these papers. Tomorrow in court, I'm going to expose what you did to get the $1 million you used to pay this off.
Are you crazy or something? I don't care if you want to give it to me or not. There's two of us here. You got that? Two.
Oui. Mr. Armstrong? Forgive me. Désolé. I cannot argue with him. That really hurt.
Is that all you's got? I'll be taking those papers now. Armstrong, get that lighter.
Wait.
Don't take it too hard. Phoenix Wright.
That was so stupid. I shouldn't have let my guard down. Those medical papers were vital evidence.
Hey, hold it, pal. Yo, what's up?
Detective Gumshoe.
Detective? You think you're gonna stop me, copper? Beat it! Oh! Whoa, come on. Come on, Gumshoe. Keep it together. You guys, get out of here. Leave this guy to me.
But...
Go, pal, and take this. If you gets hurt, who's gonna look after Maggie, huh? All right. Well, thanks, Gumshoe.
Wait, Nick! Don't leave me behind!
All right. Got him.
I'll get even with that guy tomorrow. In court. Tender Linder's going down.
Heck yeah. Okay. We didn't actually have to do anything else. Well, that's nice. I was worried that there would be like more people we had to talk to. I guess we still have that lunchbox. I guess the lunchbox is what we're gonna have to give to Maggie at the end.
Good morning, Mr. Wright. Good morning, Maggie. So, what do you think is going to happen today, sir? Yesterday's session didn't go so well and ended on a giant mystery.
That's true. And we still haven't solved a single part of it yet.
You okay, Nick?
Huh? Oh, yeah, of course.
I saw that little flash of doubt in your eyes.
No, that wasn't doubt. That was, determination.
Why don't I believe you? It's nearly time, Maggie. You'd better get going to the defendant's seat. Roger, don't let me down, Mr. Wright. I'm counting on you.
Hey, pal. Hey, Detective Gumshoe. Quit stressing Maggie out. She doesn't need that.
How did you know she was stressed?
I was, watching through the doorway.
Oh.
You look like you lost the case already. Show a bit of confidence, will you, pal? Here, maybe this'll help.
Huh? Have you taken up aromatherapy too?
Not in a million years, pal. Don't tell me you don't remember this thing.
Come to think of it, that doesn't look like one of those aromatherapy bottles.
This is the small bottle that turned up in Tribulations' kitchen a couple days ago.
Yeah, I remember that. Didn't we find this? Don't we already have that? And it doesn't smell.
We finally...
Okay, this is the analysis.
We finally got the analysis results back from the lab.
So, what is it? Is it the poison?
I'm afraid not, pal. It's medication.
Medication?
Ah, it's the ear squirter.
Yeah, for ears. Topical use only, apparently.
For ears?
What you mean? Yeah, it's the medication Glenn Elg was using for his ruptured eardrum.
What was Glenn Elg's ear medicine doing in the kitchen? Bum 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 bum. Covered in unidentified fingerprints. What about the unidentified fingerprints? Anything on that?
Someone screwed up, so they only had time to analyze the contents of the bottle. Another hour, and they might have gotten something on the prints, but...
That's gonna weaken its impact as a piece of evidence.
Okay, pal, this is it. Make sure your defense is impregnable today. Got it?
Today's trial. I'm gonna expose that guy for what he's done, or my name isn't Phoenix Wright. Wouldn't it be really easy? You just, to identify the fingerprints, you just get the fingerprints. And then you run it in the database, and it says these are the fingerprints. This is the year 2018, I think. Yeah, I think this is it's 2018 by this point in the game. Which we know because I think the Christmas case is the only time... Well, so... Yes, that's true, but this game isn't set in the mid-aughts something. This game is set in 20... Well, the first game is set in 2016 because the Christmas case is the only time that a day of the week is mentioned by name. I forget what it is, but people determined that that day of the week being on that date could only mean that the game takes place in 2016. So I think by this point in the timeline, we're in 2018, which means you could get those fingerprints a lot faster, is my point. That's all I'm trying to say. Now, no more psychotically ranting about the Phoenix Wright's setting. We're not going to talk about how, you know, the police would suspend the court so that they could get that done. We're not going to talk about that. It's not important. It just suspend the trial a little longer. It'll be like a later in the day.
Court is now in session for the trial of Maggie Bird.
The defense is ready, Your Honor.
Ready and waiting, as always, Your Honor.
Very good. Then we'll get underway at once. Yesterday we heard the testimony of Mr. Victor Kudo. He claims to have witnessed the defendant putting a powder into the victim's coffee. However, the witness's testimony was plagued with a number of problems.
The mark on the rim of the cup shows that the victim drank from it with his right hand. But according to the old man's testimony, he picked it up with his left hand.
Thank you, Mr. Godot. Furthermore, according to the witness's account, the victim was listening to the radio with an earpiece in his left ear. Yet the victim's left eardrum was ruptured, which made him effectively deaf in that ear.
It's amazing how many contradictions a single case can have, huh, Nick?
Allow me to enlighten you, Your Honor. The world, you see, keeps turning, and we must turn with it.
You've lost me already, Mr. Godot.
Don't let the mysteries of yesterday mystify you today. Only losers think like that. You've got to change with the times. That's one of my rules.
Are you implying that you've resolved these contradictions?
You know the answer.
You know the answers to these riddles?
The old guy wasn't just throwing seed in here. He was throwing us off the scent. And today, I'll prove it.
Very well. Let the first witness take the stand.
All right, let's see what the deal is.
And you are?
Oh, bonjour, everyone. I am Jean Armstrong, the owner and head chef of La Tribulations restaurant. Enchanté. Look at his little pose. He's so funny.
Forgive me for asking, witness, but are you a woman?
I don't think that makes any sense. He's very clearly a guy. He's just effeminate. He's like enormous. He's like a big bara, however you say that. He's got muscles coming out of his face. Like, look at him. He's a weightlifter. He's like an Olympic weightlifter body build. He's freaking enormous. Ooh la la, monsieur. As you can see, I am la pert and perky gentleman, no? It's part of the culture, so it's okay. Moral relativism? I don't know.
On the day of the incident, you were in Trebien's kitchen. Isn't that right?
With you, monsieur. Everything feels right.
What? Ha! Wow, he's totally unfazed. Doesn't anything intimidate this guy?
Very well. Your testimony, please, witness. Please, tell the courts what happened that day at Tribien.
Oui, volontiers. I'm sure I'm saying like all of these words wrong. I'm sure I'm not like nasalizing enough of the the letters. I should just say the first like sound and nothing else. Minito la peine, there were just 2 customers in my restaurant. I remember I was experimenting with some new art deco that day. Like having a large mirror between the tables, for example. Oui, perhaps that is what the old man was looking at. La cup, la earpiece, and la glasses. He would have seen everything in reverse, no? A mirror? Oui, un gros mirror. La most enormous mirror.
And suddenly, the mystery disappears. Like I said, the world keeps turning. So, roll with it.
That would explain the coffee cup and the earpiece conundrum. The mirror would have made everything appear back to front.
What the heck? It's way too early in the morning for this to be happening to me.
I agree, Phoenix. This is crap. Whew. Explode. Yeah, all the nonsense. Localize, yeah. Ooh, I got one. Huh. Okay, we're good. We're good.
Now then, Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination.
Sleepy, you go to sleepy, baby.
Well, let's look at our stuff real quick. Because I'm pretty sure we just know that's not true. Yeah, okay, we have to give her the weenies at the end of the day. Prime photo. No. Well, there's no mirror in this thing. So there was only mirror over there? I don't know. I feel like this would disprove it, but it doesn't show him the wall next to him. So I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's what I think. I just had to check this crime photo again because I wasn't sure exactly what it showed, but obviously it wouldn't show a mirror. I guess this will be important that he broke the mirror. We have so much crap. Found this at Tenderlender. We have $1 million. We have the Millionaire Radio. Computer virus, the paper badge, Glenn's calendar. We have all kinds of stuff. If I had $1 million, I'd be rich. Boom, 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 boom.
And who were the 2 customers exactly?
My, of course, the young man who died. And the other not so young man?
You're referring to yesterday's witness, I assume.
Died? Ahaha.
What about the other man Maggie says she saw at the table? Something tells me Mr. Armstrong isn't planning to disclose his existence.
We need some hard evidence first before we can bring him up, don't we?
I guess I'll just have to try a different approach for the time being. You are experimenting with Art Deco? How come I never heard about that before today?
You are not familiar with the language of interior design, monsieur?
Please stay on topic. Now, why didn't you tell the court about this before?
But I did, just a few moments ago.
Excuse me, Mr. Armstrong. This deco you mentioned, are you referring to some sort of decorature?
No. Art Deco. It's a style of design, Your Honor. He's talking about interior design. Walls, ceilings, carpets, that kind of thing.
Yes, of course. That's deco.
Also, Art Deco is a specific type of design, and I don't think that that's... I don't know. That's not what that means. That's wrong. That's wrong. I was trying to achieve a more effeminate look for my restaurant. I was planning the most bold remodeling of la décor.
How big of a mirror are we talking about here?
Something about 4 meters wide and about 2 meters high.
Let's see if 1 meter is about 1 yard. Holy glass in a frame, that's huge!
Phoenix converting meters to feet in his head. Yeah, it's like it's a style. It's what the Rocketeer looks like. I was intending to install it on la ceiling eventually.
The ceiling? Is there a mirror on the ceiling? I don't remember.
Mais non, but I decided to not go through with it in the end.
What should I do? Should I ask him more about the mirror or not?
No, wait, wrong thing. No. He couldn't lie. It's impossible. I'm stupid. I didn't press the right button. I got Kpora Gaybora'd. Le tables. I make the bad food.
If you really had such a large mirror in the restaurant, someone would have noticed it. But there's nothing about a mirror in Mr. Kudo or Maggie Bird's testimonies.
But
You didn't ask, Wright. You have only yourself to blame for such sloppy work. What? A mirror was delivered to Tribulations the day before the incident. Really? As Mr. Armstrong testified, he was carrying out some design changes. And as it turned out, he didn't actually use the mirror in the end. This just doesn't add up. Even if a mirror was delivered to Tribulations, it doesn't prove that it was in the restaurant on the day of the crime. Ha! If you want to doubt someone, right? Look in the mirror. I'm sure the person looking back at you will be dubious enough.
So the witness yesterday had seen the victim reflected in a mirror.
Oui, perhaps that is what the old man was looking at.
Normally, I'd expect people to know the difference between a reflection and a real object. Normally? How does normality come into this? That's lame, Wright. Even for you. Huh? Are you trying to say that if something isn't normal, it isn't possible? Is that it? Where does that leave the porky-headed lawyer and the top-notch chick over there? And the ungodly cool guy with the mask over here? Well, Wright?
Ah, not the hair. I do not have a top knot.
Mr. Godot is correct. A lack of normality is no basis for discounting an argument.
Bien, logic has one light day. Would have seen everything in reverse.
Everything? He would have seen everything in reverse.
Oui.
Hey, Nick, we should take a second and think about what old CD said in his testimony.
How did he phrase it again?
No question, you can lock me up. It was his left ear. And he used the same hand to pick up the cup.
If he saw everything he described reflected in a mirror, then everything he said he saw on the left was actually on the right, huh?
And that clears up all the problems with his testimony, I guess. Or does it? Ha! It's kinda hard to believe everything's the fault of a mirror, but
Do you think old CD saw everything through a reflection?
if he did, it would explain all the contradictions in his testimony.
But that just makes the situation worse for Maggie. And there's gotta be something in that old man's testimony. We've just gotta dig deeper.
So, wasn't the whole reason he was looking over to try and read the sports stuff? But that doesn't help us. His testimony was, I was looking over so that I could read the sports column because I needed to know if, whatever, Blake Blyson, I needed to know if Blake Blyson, retained the title. I guess that's, yeah, it definitely does show it in his portrait. But I don't know. Everything in reverse. There are just so many problems with it that I don't know where to start. Saving's a good idea, because I'm really not sure whether I give them his face or yeah, it's on his left side. Yeah, left over his left eye. That's what he said. Look, it's that lady. She's gone. I thought maybe she might have done it, and she could have been the other girl, because she wanted his program. I thought the program might have been a program to win the lottery, but that's not what it was. Which is too bad. That would have been a fun direction to take this in. Anyway. Wrong. The coffee cup, the earpiece, and the HMD. Let's think back over Mr. Kudo's testimony for a second, shall we?
The boy was wearing the earpiece on the same side as the green lens of his specs. No question. He can lock me up if I'm wrong. It was his left ear, without a doubt.
So, to summarize, we were told both the HMD and the earpiece were on the victim's left side. Now, if Mr. Kudo saw all that as a reflection in a mirror, It means both the HMD and the earpiece were actually on the victim's right side.
Exactement. You see, monsieur. Now that you think about it, it's not so hard, no?
Unfortunately, that's where we run into a monumental contradiction with the facts. If Mr. Kudo really did see everything in a mirror, why is it that the HMD is now on the wrong side of his head?
Yeah, we're doing it.
Order! Order! Mr. Wright is correct. If the witness genuinely observed the victim reflected in a mirror, then we would expect the victim's eyepiece to have been over his right eye.
How bitter. Right. You should have a taste of this bitterness. It'll calm you down in no time.
Are we talking about your coffee or something completely different?
You don't understand the way the witness thinks.
How he thinks?
You remember this, I presume.
The I broke the vase, sorry apology. I mean, Mr. Kudo's sworn testimony.
Exactly. The old man has one very grievous habit, other than throwing seeds. The more of an impression something makes, the more muddled his mind makes it. And what's the most striking thing about Mr. Elk?
Clearly, it's the victim's eyepiece.
And that's my point. The old man strikes again. Mr. Elk's HMD made a big impression on the old man. I saw the earpiece and those newfangled spectacles he was wearing. Oh yes, they were both on his left ear. Do you hear? His left ear. Ha! Well tried.
That's the worst, but best impression of Kudo ever. Wow, I really thought he was old seedy for a minute there. Kudo's good.
Enough! I must agree that yesterday's witness was irresponsibly rash in much of his testimony.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Bad luck, Nick. Looks like the boil of a contradiction you found is just a rash.
A mirror can't be beaten by a handful of seeds, nor can it lie. So, what exactly was the old man looking at? Fill us in, Mr. Armstrong. Go on, tell the court. We're all ears.
Oui, I can explain. Please, if you look at the plans of le restaurant.
Yeah, it's a society.
Alors, is everyone sitting comfortably? La mirror, it was in the middle of the restaurant, dividing the two halves. There is only one seat from which you could have seen an image of the victim. That was la seat at the table next to the victims. That was where the old man was sitting. After the terrible incident occurred, I moved the mirror so it was not in the way. But naturally, I did not touch anything else.
I don't know. I don't know why you'd think that. I don't know why you'd think it because he literally sprinkled this poison into his cup.
I see no problems with the explanation we've just heard. From the table next to the victims, Mr. Kudo could have seen the victim in the mirror.
What a naughty little coquette I am, confusing all the men like this.
Don't worry about it. We can keep up. Except for the guy breaking out in a cold sweat over there again. Ah, I hate that guy.
You said you didn't touch anything else apart from the mirror. Are you quite sure about that?
Volunteer, of course.
Very well, Mr. Wright. Your cross-examination, if you please.
La mirror. It was in the middle of la restaurant, dividing the two halves.
So, run this by me again. The mirror was here, correct?
Oui.
We? Really? Because I know if I were you, I wouldn't have put a mirror there. It would be in the way. Look who's talking, Wright. Huh? You're obstructing my view, among other things.
But, this is my seat in the courtroom.
Debian's charm is that it gives you the impression that you're the only customer. Temporarily placing a mirror in that spot would hardly be in the way. Unlike you, Wright.
I tell you, monsieur, la mirror was there in the middle of la restaurant.
And where would that be?
Ooh la la, look how you lean towards me. I always attract the younger boys. Maybe I should keep you in suspense a little longer.
Mr. Armstrong, tell the court what you know at once.
I attract the older ones too. You know, handsome, I shall tease you too.
I'm already seeing a very hot someone, so I'm afraid you'll be waiting for a long time.
I bet she has mocha cream skin and cappuccino perfume. Bien, I will tell you, there was only one seat from which you could have seen. The seat next to the victim.
So, why can you only see the victim from that particular seat?
My monsieur, it is obvious, no? If you look at la plans, you will understand. Yeah. He was sitting over there. That seems like bullshit, though.
Did you move the mirror while Mr. Kudo was off calling the police?
Oui, exactement. I carried it out of la restaurant then.
You moved a huge mirror like that all by yourself?
What can I say? I know how to pick things up, handsome. Godot actually laughed at something.
Well, given the witness's physique, I suppose it is possible.
That's what I'm saying. He's enormous. He's huge. The strongest man.
Did you move anything else from the crime scene, Mr. Armstrong?
I look like the obliging type, no? Did not touch anything else.
Are you sure about that?
I touched nothing except la mirror.
Mr. Wright, is there something the witness has said that doesn't match the crime scene?
Well, let's see. Let's look at that picture again. Can we see? Yeah, we can totally see the face in it. Good.
Yeah, there is. I just can't put my finger on what exactly. Ha! Suffering from a case of heartburn, right?
And Bane posting. That's the real dog whistle, is Bane posting. Oh, I was just seeing Frankenstance. He said Frankenstance. I skipped it because I was like, blah, I don't care about his stupid perfume thing. But then, like, for half a second, I saw the word Frankenstance. What a moron. Wait, you don't add coffee? You don't add it to coffee? What is happening?
Focus, Phoenix. Breathe. I need to ignore those two and just find some evidence.
It is pretty strange, though, isn't it? I mean, nobody mentioned anything about a really large mirror. You'd think someone would have, but Maggie didn't, and neither did old Seedy.
And the only logical explanation is that there was no mirror inside Tribulations that day. Now I've just got to prove it. Somehow.
Okay. Did not touch anything else. Wow! Get a load of this!
And this piece of evidence contradicts with the testimony we have heard, Your Honor.
The crime photo?
Yes, and this photo clearly shows something that should theoretically not exist.
What on earth do you mean by that, Mr. Wright?
Should not exist? Huh. Sounds like you're describing yourself, Wright.
Now then, if the defense would please clarify its statement. What is the something that should not exist in this photo?
Well, clearly, it's the base, you morons!
I think it's pretty obvious that this is what should not be in the picture.
The vase? What possible connection does that have with this witness's testimony?
Your Honor, I'm telling you that there should have been no vase on this table. Because it very clearly contradicts with this piece of evidence. Ba-ba. There is one thing that was clearly demonstrated by yesterday's testimony. Mr. Kudo broke the vase that was on the table where he was sitting. And yet, as the court can see, there is an unbroken vase on the table next to the victim. Why? Because Mr. Kudo was not, in fact, sitting at the table next to the victim at all. Don't be an idiot, Wright. That's impossible. That seat's the only one Kudo could have seen the victim's reflection from. Exactly. There's only one conclusion we can draw from this contradiction. There was no mirror in Tribulations that day. Your testimony, Mr. Armstrong, is an elaborate lie.
Mon Dieu!
Don't try to confuse the court, Wright. Obviously, the witness cleaned up the vase, while the police were taking their time to getting to the crime scene. Unfortunately, Mr. Godot, that doesn't quite work for me. Mr. Armstrong already testified to the contrary, in his own words. I did not touch anything else except the mirror.
Well, witness, what do you have to say for yourself?
I was right. There was no mirror in the restaurant that day.
In light of this revelation, we return back to the original problem. Why did the victim have an earpiece in an ear which he couldn't hear?
Ha! You only get one shot in life. There's no turning back. If you want to claim that the mirror wasn't there, Wright, then this problem is all yours. How do you explain what the old man saw? If I can answer this, then I'll be that much closer to the truth. I can feel it.
Are you gonna be okay? Can you really solve this contradiction, Nick?
There's more than just this one contradiction, Maya.
What do you mean?
Remember what Maggie told us? There was another man at the victim's table. And there was a sample CD on the victim's table. It all flies in the face of Mr. Kudo's testimony. And I think I know the reason why nothing in this case is adding up.
Well, Mr. Wright, let's hear your answer.
Yes, Your Honor. The reason behind all the contradiction in Mr. Kudo's testimony is simple. The victim was a phony! The case is riddled with contradictions. Yet there is one very simple answer that clears them all up.
And what is that?
The incident Mr. Kudo witnessed and the incident the victim experienced were two completely different events. What? Yes, the victim that Mr. Kudo saw wasn't Mr. Glenn Elg at all. It was an imposter, a phony pretending to be Mr. Elg.
It was what, Phoenix?
Obviously, unlike the victim, there was nothing wrong with the imposter's left eardrum. And that's how he ended up wearing the earpiece in his left ear by mistake.
I can't believe it. What's up? What's up, Sabaka?
Order! Order in the court! Settle down or I'll clear the courtroom!
Quiet, Gramps. Why don't you clear out of here, huh?
What did you say?
Right. Are you saying that what Mr. Kudo saw was a setup?
Oh, poor The Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us is great because every time it goes on sale, shoot, which one is it? I follow, Cheap Ass Gamer and Wario64. And I think it's Wario64 that every time it goes on sale, it freaking, he puts an Among Us in it. And I laugh every time because I'm a child. But yeah, I feel like The Wolf Among Us and the first Walking Dead thing they did were both the best things that Telltale did. I think those are both like genuinely cool like game things, game-shaped objects. I haven't played Tales of the Borderlands. I've heard that's good. I've heard people say that's good. I've seen there's a cutscene where Reese shoots a bunch of people with finger guns and they fall over. He just goes a pew 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 pew, and that's pretty funny. I know I have a friend who really likes it. He's like really into it. But yeah, I never played it myself. That I don't know. I never saw anything about it, so I don't know. That I never saw. It might be fun to take a look at sometime.
Yes. Someone pretended to be Glenn Elg and acted out the whole coffee poisoning. All for the express purpose of creating a witness out of one Mr. Victor Kudo. Get real, Wright. Why would anyone want to do that? Isn't it obvious? The thing Mr. Kudo was most insistent about in his testimony was,
The servant girl brought him a cappuccino, but she put something in it. That's the servant girl right there. Blah. I'm old.
It's so hard to believe, but
there was one and only one reason to show Mr. Kudo this fake poisoning. To show Maggie Bird in the act of poisoning the coffee. Are you insinuating that the waitress in the old man's story was a fake as well? It's true that there were no other customers in the restaurant at the time, but it's also true that the chef was there. He would have noticed what was happening.
That's right. Well, witness, if your restaurant really was the scene of such theatrics, you would have known about it, correct?
Oh la la, this is most difficult for me.
No, it's quite simple. All you have to do is testify. You are under oath after all. Was there, in fact, a phony at Tribulations that day? The defense demands that Mr. Armstrong tell the whole truth about what happened.
The defense's request for additional testimony is accepted. You will accurately explain in detail the events in the restaurant that day.
Oui.
Oink, 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 oink.
Yeah, under oath is like, I don't know. I don't know how much of a... I don't know if that's gonna help any.
Le victim, Monsieur Elg, he came to my restaurant alone. I remember the old man arrived not long after him. There were no other customers. When he got word he won the lottery, Elg became very excited. It was approximately 5 minutes later that the poisoning incident occurred. No, there was no time for a phony to do the acting.
Just so we're clear, there was no murder in the restaurant after all.
Je vous demande pardon. Forgive me, Your Honor. I lied because I wanted this mess to be cleared up quickly.
What you have just done is commit perjury, Mr. Armstrong. I will decide how to punish you later.
Oui.
Witness, do you promise? Do you promise?
But now we will hear your cross-examination. Mr. Wright, if you please.
He took that perjury charge a bit too well. I'm guessing he'll be in more serious trouble after this cross-examination.
One second. Stretch a little bit. I'm all... Ugh. All stiff. Ooh, sorry, guys. I was sick with that cold yesterday, so I'm all achy and weird. Ah, that's better though. Gotta stretch my little body.
Was he alone at his table as well?
My oui. Mais oui.
Is that Mewi? I'm still not very sure.
I saw him from la kitchen.
Yet the defendant, Ms. Bird, remembers it differently. She swears there was another man at the victim's table. Ha! Unfortunately for you, Wright. Yesterday's witness also testified that the victim was alone. Ugh. You know, seeing you squirm like that reminds me of a certain coffee's bittersweet bite. What kind of coffee has he been drinking?
It's not coffee. It's love. It's love that's bittersweet.
Hearing Maya say that makes her seem wise all of a sudden.
Does it?
You sure? I don't know about that one.
My old man, you mean Victor Kudo, correct?
Oui, he comes often for my special coffee.
I drank your coffee once, Mr. Armstrong. It's special, I'll give you that. It's worth a sip, just for the experience.
Oh, you make me so happy, monsieur. You are most welcome anytime.
I said it was worth one sip, and nothing more. So old Mr. Kudo arrived at the restaurant around the same time as the victim. Maybe I should ask about his arrival in more detail.
What time was it?
Out of curiosity, about what time was it when Mr. Kudo arrived?
Oh no, I cannot remember, monsieur.
I believe we were told by a witness yesterday.
The crime was reported at 2:25 p.m. by a kinda scary old man, sir.
Does that perhaps jog your memory, witness?
The incident happened about 20 minutes after he arrived. So the victim must have arrived between 2 p.m. and 10 p.m., no?
Just after 2, huh?
Thank you for your help in jogging my memory, monsieur. You are wonderful.
I can't sit here all the time and do nothing now, can I? The time of day will be added to the witness's testimony.
Yes! Let's go.
Oui, monsieur judge. Everything I do it for you.
That's CBN. That's French, isn't it?
I'm glad at least one person is in a good mood.
He's even humming a song to himself.
Not long after him, just after 2 p.m. There were no other customers.
So your only customers were Mr. Kudo and the victim. How many times do you need to ask the same thing, Wright? You'd never catch me drinking the same blend twice. Huh? You're trying to establish the presence of a phony victim in the restaurant. But you're wasting your time. You can't grind birdseed to make coffee, if you catch my drift. But there's a hole in this testimony somewhere. I'm sure of it.
Did you see him?
No, I was in the kitchen, but I heard him. I remember him shouting, "Yes, $500,000."
Presumably the defendant heard that too then, correct?
Maggie, she looked like a poor little frightened dove.
And what about Mr. Kudo?
The old man choked on some bird seed that got stuck in his throat.
It seems we now have yet another incident on our hands.
Approximately 5 minutes later that the poisoning happened.
And what were you doing at that point? Without any customers, you must have had time to kill.
I am a multi-talented woman, monsieur.
Sorry? What do you mean?
There is la renowned chef, Jean Armstrong, and la tragique poète, Clarice Armstrong.
Clarice?
Oui, I was writing a poem, an angry tale of a chef in $500,000 debt. Cooking for a man who won $500,000 on la lottery. It is called Pourquoi? It means why? Perhaps I could recite it for the court.
Please don't.
No, there was no time for a pony to do the acting.
You mean you contacted the police as soon as the incident occurred?
I I asked the old man to call from the payphone.
By your own argument, Wright. The purpose of this phony victim's performance was so the old man would see it. In other words, once the incident occurred, this opportunity would completely disappear.
Indeed.
Bien, it seems the shadow of doubt has been lifted, n'est-ce pas?
I guess Mr. Armstrong is connected to this case, huh?
Absolutely. Someone was impersonating Mr. Elg, and I refuse to believe he was oblivious. He was there the whole time, after all.
But if you're right, wouldn't Maggie have noticed too?
She fell unconscious when the incident occurred, remember?
Ah, you mean that's when the phony staged his act?
We'll know for sure once I find a hole in this testimony.
Yeah. 2 p.m. Yeah. Guess what? That's wrong!
I'm afraid I finally got you, Mr. Armstrong.
Quoi? What do you mean?
At the time in question, the victim was listening to the radio with his earpiece. The show he was listening to was Millionaire Radio. Each week, they announced the winning numbers of the $500,000 lottery ticket.
Oui, that must be le show, it's hard to say that, mon elg.
It just doesn't naturally roll off the tongue.
Was listening to.
I can't see any problem with this testimony, Mr. Wright.
I wonder. You say the victim arrived at your restaurant after 2 p.m., correct?
Oui, I am sure of it. I remember it perfectly now. I know it was that time because I had just finished serving the lunch menu.
Get to the point, Wright, if you have one. That show is broadcast live at 1:30 p.m. And it claims to be the most thrilling 10 minutes of your life.
It's on the air at 1:30?
Now, supposedly the victim made some noise when it was announced that he had won. And yet, I don't believe his cry of joy could have occurred after 2 p.m. Because the show had already finished more than 30 minutes earlier by that point in time.
No!
This victim we've been told about has done nothing but the impossible. Listening to the radio with a ruptured eardrum, catching a show that was already over, there is only one conclusion you can draw from these facts. This victim was an
Imposter.
acting out the poisoning 30 minutes after the real murder. This imposter was Sussy Baka for real. Respectfully. Yes, there were 2 Glen Elgs in Tribulations that day. The real Glen Elg, now dead, having been poisoned by the real killer, and the phony Glen Elg acting out the events for Mr. Kudo to witness.
It certainly seems that way. I mean, if that wasn't the case, how could you explain the time discrepancy?
Quite a performance, Wright. You are almost on a roll. But sadly, you lack the rock-hard foundation of rhythm to build your song.
What is this? Music Theory 101?
Let's recap. According to your imaginative theory, it's now just after 2 p.m. The phony Elg is performing a play for the benefit of Mr. Kudo. How do you explain then where the real Glen Elg is?
I don't believe I have to spell this out for the court.
However, at that time, the real Glen Elg was already dead.
That's certainly the obvious conclusion.
Thank you, Wright. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say.
What?
Now, I presume you can prove this theory of yours. Can you explain where the missing corpse went to?
The missing corpse?
According to the old man's testimony, there was only one other customer there. If that customer was the phony Glen Elg, then where did the killer hide the body of the real victim?
The prosecution has a valid point, Mr. Wright. If your theory is to stand up to examination by the court, you must provide us with proof by answering the prosecution's question. Where did the killer hide the body?
Yes, Your Honor.
No conjecture, Wright. Let's hear some facts for once. Let's, save the game. Show the court a piece of evidence that proves where the body was hidden.
Evidence?
What's with this intense pressure in here all of a sudden?
I thought I had him with that contradiction. But he's turned it all around and backed me into a corner instead.
Well, Mr. Wright, the court will now hear the defense's theory and evidence. First, where was the body of the real Mr. Glen Elg concealed?
It's gotta be inside, right? In le kitchen? Found this in there. In le kitchen. Is there anything in this photo? Is he hiding under the table? No, he's not. Yeah, so we're gonna have to show the kitchen in this floor plans, probably. That's the only thing I can imagine. The kitchen. Inside. It would. Come on, man. Come on, look at this. Look. Get a load of this. Come on. Come on. What is this? This is bullcrap. You don't do this. Come on. It would have to have been too dangerous to take the body outside. Obviously, the body must have been hidden somewhere inside Tribulations.
Interesting. But where could a body have been hidden inside a restaurant? Perhaps you would care to show the court on these plans, Mr. Wright?
Yes, Your Honor. The exact location where the body was concealed inside Tribulations is over here. In the kitchen. No? Yes.
The body was hidden here.
I see.
Nice supposition. But the real question is, can you back it up? Where's the evidence that proves the body was hidden in that location? Mr. Armstrong, do you recognize this bottle?
No. I've never seen that ugly bottle before in my life. I only use the very best bottles, monsieur. The highest quality, only for me.
Where was that bottle found, Mr. Wright?
Interestingly enough, Your Honor, it was found in the kitchen of Tribulations.
Quoi? But I only ever use these bottles for my aromatherapy oils.
But this bottle doesn't contain aromatherapy oil, Mr. Armstrong. No, it contains a medication.
What kind of medication?
I'm sure everyone remembers, don't they? That Mr. Elg visited an otolaryngological clinic and was given medication that day. You can't be serious. The defense had the contents of the bottle analyzed, and I have the lab results here. The contents of the bottle matched the prescription that was given to Mr. Elg. Glenn Elg's murderer hid the body in the restaurant kitchen, at which time this bottle fell out of the victim's pocket. Mr. Armstrong, when the incident occurred, didn't you say you were in the kitchen?
Mon Dieu!
Yes, you know what I'm about to say. It was you who hid the victim's body. You did a fine job pretending to defend my client, Maggie Bird. However, you were setting her up to take the fall behind the poor girl's back.
No!
Order! Order! This is an extraordinary development. Witness, did you murder Mr. Glenn Elg?
Never! I could not do such an horrible thing!
What? Is Godot gonna explode? Oh no! You guys! Oh no! He's transforming into his final form! Oh my god! Ah! It was only a matter of time.
Mr. Godot?
We're just gonna... Let's see if I can... let's see. How do I... Transform? No. Group? No. Properties? Yes. No, that's not right. How do I key it out? I know there's a way to key out... Oh, it doesn't want me to do it. It doesn't like it. Filters. Ah! No, I don't want that. I want... Color key. Yes, 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 yes. Key color. Custom color. Yes. Yes! Done! Look, there he is! Oh! Yes! We did it! Okay, we gotta open up the game again.
The bitterness. Every time I get lied to.
Wait, I gotta, Can I copy? Can I copy this? I wonder if I can... Copy. And paste. So I can have two of them. I can have one for both positions. So I just close this one. Oh, it's so good. Yes, we need another mug. That's the real yeah, get it in there. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh, it's beautiful. Don't talk to me or my mug ever again. Oh, this was a good time. This was a good use of our time.
I always down a mug of coffee. That's one of my rules.
Do you have the slightest idea how many cups you've had by now?
Then I like to do the same to the person who lied to me. I like to take them down with my empty cup. Listen up, chef. How about a brand new flavor in your ear, my age-deficient friend?
Je vous demande pardon. Please, you must hear me out. It is a trap. Listen to me. Por favor.
Yo hablo español.
Yo hablo español, Mr. Armstrong, and por favor is Spanish.
Fucking got him. Yo! Oh. I love your idea. You get a green, yeah, he's got the green, straw. It'd be really good.
I'm only going to ask you once. Did you do it?
No, absolutely no. I simply...
Let's hear it. You've got one shot, right, Gramps?
Witness, the court will permit you the chance to make one final statement.
Yeah.
If you lie under oath again, Mr. Godot's coffee mug awaits you, as does my gavel.
Oui, it is clear.
What do they always say in movies? I've got a bad feeling about this. Yeah, I saw Star Wars. What about it?
Mr. Wright, do not quote Star Wars in my courtroom. Banned. Bailiff, slap his nuts.
It is true, I eat la body in la kitchen. A man forced me to do it. I had no choice. I had to go along with him because there was a reason why I could not refuse. But I did not kill him. I swear, you must believe me.
You were forced? By who?
I cannot say, or I will be erased.
Let's try a different question then. When Mr. L died, was he really the only person at his table?
There was. There was another man.
I knew it.
Maggie was telling the truth.
You may cross-examine the witness now, Mr. Wright.
There's just one more thing I need to do. I gotta break this guy and get him to tell us the name of the real killer.
It'll be fine.
Ah. Did you carry the body by yourself?
Oui, I carried him. And I carried Maggie too.
Maggie too?
When she saw la victim collapse, she fainted. I could not leave her there.
But why did you hide the bodies?
A man forced me to do it. I had no choice.
What man? Who was he?
No, I cannot say. I fear for my life.
He's really scared.
You'll just have to put the words in his mouth, Nick.
Yeah, you're right. If you won't tell me, I'll tell him.
But why would you go along with this man?
I had to go along with him because there was a reason why I could not refuse.
And what reason would that be, Mr. Armstrong?
You know, monsieur.
Yes?
Surely you cannot expect a young maiden to talk about such an embarrassment.
A maiden? You're a bit old to get away with that.
And a bit too male. Ooh! My transphobic moments. You're telling me this Japanese mystic did not say trans rights? Unbelievable. I don't buy it at all. I can't finish the cross-examination without establishing his reason. So I'll just have to prove it with evidence.
Report to Interpol. I'll leave you to the closed stream. Maya said the bed. I don't like it.
Well, you didn't kill him, huh? So, you're claiming that all you did was hide the bodies? Is that correct?
Oui, that's right.
If we are to believe you, Mr. Armstrong, you must tell the court everything. You must make clear the identity of the man who ordered you to do this.
He's already confessed this much. He might as well stop dancing around the real issue.
Yeah, but he really doesn't want to tell us who the killer is.
Well, then suck it to him, Nick.
Yeah, and that's not a bad idea. There was a reason, so we have to tell him the reason first. And the reason is, I'm the president of the United States. Where's that tender lender thing? Medical papers. MC bomber, paper badge, victim's badge, paper, lottery ticket, coffee cup, crime photo, floor plans, testimony. Ah, there it is. How'd it get so far back? Chun-Li's gonna kill me. She's gonna break into my house. You have a $500,000 debt, don't you?
$500,000? Is this true, Mr. Armstrong?
Oui, je suis désolé. I was weak and I borrowed la money.
This is Mr. Armstrong's Achilles heel. And that's why you couldn't refuse anything asked of you by this man. Me! A $500,000 loan from a black market loan shark. And you had no way of paying it back, did you? That's why you were forced to do anything this man told you.
Oui, it is as you say.
Mr. Armstrong.
La tiger, he told me he was going to use my restaurant for a business rendezvous. On la day in question, he was meeting la victim to demand that he repay his loan. I don't know why it happened like that. I just did what he told me to do. I had no choice. I carried la body and la inconscient Maggie out of la dining area and into the kitchen. After that, I just tried to forget what I had seen. Ooh.
I think we can now safely say that the man who forced your hand was Mr. Furio Tigre.
I do have one further question for you, Mr. Armstrong. The poison and the lottery ticket that were found in the defendant's apron pocket, was that your doing as well?
No, I knew nothing about that. Making it look like it was Maggie who had done it. I was not. It is despicable.
will summon this Furio Tigre as a witness. I doubt that can be arranged today, so we will adjourn for now. Proceedings will continue tomorrow.
30 minutes.
What?
The trial will go on. I'll see to it myself. I need half an hour to get that guy on the stand. Not a minute more. How the? Don't sit back and relax just yet, Wright. No one knows if that chef is really telling the truth or not. This trial could still go either way.
Are you sure? Okay. I guess it could totally go either way.
Very well, your request is granted, Mr. Godot. You resume once Mr. Tigre is ready to take the stand. Until then, court is adjourned for a 30-minute recess.
All right. We'll go grab him. Yeah, let's save our progress. I need more water. I'm gonna go grab more water real quick. If I'm gonna do that Furio Tigre voice, I'm gonna need it. So just give me like a few seconds. It won't be long, I promise. Oh, you gotta leave. Oh, okay. Well, we'll see you in a little bit, Tiara. Sorry, I had a cough there. It was not great. I was like, ugh. I need to catch my breath for a second. The cold makes it tough, but we're soldiering through. We'll get it done today. It's not a problem. I'm the biggest and the strongest, and I could do it on my own. Yeah.
So we're finally going to see the tiger on the stand. We've almost got this case won now, Nick.
I wish I could agree.
Huh?
When I cross-examined Mr. Armstrong just now, he said he was just doing what the tiger told him to do. But Godot picked up on it, remember? He pointed out that without proof, we don't know if what he testified is the truth.
You mean you think Mr. Armstrong was lying?
I don't know, but if that's the line the prosecution takes, we could be in trouble. I get the feeling that we don't have the case-making evidence we're gonna need. Hey, pal! Detective Gumshoe!
What are you so jumpy about, Detective? Your hair's standing on end.
Hey, that's the pot calling the kettle black, you little Miss Topknot.
It's not a top knot.
Never mind about the hair. Just calm down, all right? I can't stand still when I still don't have a job to do. I kind of get wound up. Ugh.
No kidding.
You gotta have something you need me to do, pal. Anything.
Well,
Hey, I'm gonna take a jog back down to the precinct. I can get some prints analyzed for you if you got an hour.
an hour? The trial will have reconvened by then.
But Nick, we still don't have a really decisive piece of evidence, right?
True. Without some kind of trump card to pull out of the bag, we're really stuck. You said you could get some fingerprint analysis done in an hour?
Yeah, you bet.
In that case, would you mind checking the prints on this for me? If you're going back to the station anyway, could you find out whose prints are on this?
Oh wait, that's the small bottle I gave back to you this morning, right?
Yeah, I think it's time we solved that last mystery of who the prints on it belong to.
Sure thing, pal. Actually, that's been gnawing at me too.
Yeah, you take that.
Okay, I'll get this off to the lab right away. Just make sure you don't lose the case before I get back.
This is pretty much the final showdown, I guess.
It's time to separate the phonies from the real guys.
One second. Final trial. Let's go. Gotta make sure everybody sees it. I gotta look at the things. If my phone lets me, it doesn't freak out. Okay, we're good.
Court will now reconvene. Mr. Godot, did you find this Furio Tigre?
I even tamed him for you. It was a 3-cup job. No problem.
Tamed him? The guy's name may be Furio Tigre, but come on.
He's pretty lively. Be careful, he still bites.
Alright.
Very well. Please show Mr. Tigre to the stand. Witness, please state your...
Don't hide under the table, Maya. Unless there's room for me down there, too.
What'd you say to me?
Nothing. I didn't say nothing. Honest.
Who could have guessed that fear would induce a bad Brooklyn accent in the judge?
I got business to take care of. You hear me? So who the hell called me into this hole? Was it you, Spiky?
No, of course not. It was the judge? Your Honor!
Oh dear, I seem to have dropped my pen. Oh, where on earth is it? Oh, don't mind me. Just carry on with the proceedings as normal.
That's it. We're doomed. Maybe you didn't hear me. I said, who the hell was it that called me in here? There's no need to shout. We can all hear you. What'd you say? There's no point struggling. You're caught in a snare. The relentless snare of the law. And I'm the one that hauled you in. Too cool.
Don't let him get the better of you, Nick.
Let's start with the basics. You know about the incident in question, correct? Incident? I don't know nothing
Oh, it's already happening.
about no stinking incident, Mask Boy. You mean you didn't attend the previous trial of Maggie Bird? Maggie who? I've got more important things to do than watch courtroom dramas.
Of course. Well, perhaps you could give us your testimony then? Please tell us about what you did on the day of the murder.
Phoenix Wright. You's the one who set this up, didn't you? You's gonna regret the day you ruffled the tiger's fur. You hear what I'm saying? What?
Maybe I should have brought a diaper with me today.
Get a grip, Nick.
Yeah, pull it together. He's only a murderer. It's not that big of a deal. You've seen plenty of those.
I don't know nothing about no murder. I was tied up with business in December last year. Spent all my time in my office. I got whales lined up to borrow cash from tender lender every single day. Yous wanna check my alibi? Just ask Violetta.
At last I found my pen. Very well then, Mr. Wright. What is it? Please, witness, if you could refrain from shouting like that.
You know the kind of games that guy, the blue plays? That lowlife ain't no lawyer. He just punches away at stupid details until he wins.
Low life? Me?
Listen up, Smarty. Every time you ask me something that doesn't relate to this case, I'm gonna bill you $50,000. And you's gonna borrow the cash from me.
Well, that's one loan contract I refuse to sign.
Gotta go.
And don't think it ain't gonna hurt when you tangle with the tiger. I love a good spectator sport.
Just a minute. That's really not...
This witness is, how can I put it, a hungry tiger roaming the urban jungle. Get on his bad side, and he'll bite everyone's heads off. Yours too.
Very well. I have no choice but to impose a penalty system here.
Yous better be listening. I said I got business to take care of. Big business. If I don't split now, I ain't gonna catch my bus.
The court will impose a penalty for any irrelevant pressing of witness testimony. Keep that in mind as you begin your cross-examination, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor.
You can do it, Nick!
Come out from under there already, would you, Maya? All right. So, I don't know nothing about nothing. I was tied up with business in December last year. Spent all of my time in my office. I got whales lined up to borrow cash from Tenderlinder every single day. Just ask Violetta.
Just think, all you have to do is press him on something irrelevant and bam, $50,000.
Get real, Maya. How about you pay back the money then? Your allowance should cover it.
Hey, I'm no idiot, you know.
I'm certainly not the one who thought the 50,000 was free money. Anyway, I need to work this guy without pressing his testimony too hard.
But his testimony is pretty solid as it is.
I admit, nothing jumps out at me as a contradiction. I've got to find an opening somewhere, or I need to make one. Violetta? Want to press him about Violetta?
It's a free house for you, Jim. It's free real estate. Let's press him on this.
By Violetta, you're talking about the Cadaverini families.
Yeah, you don't want to cross them, or you's gonna wind up sleeping with the fishes. Once the Godfather finds out you's been dragging Violetta through the mud, he'll do you in.
Sorry, I couldn't quite put it all together towards the end there.
He said that just like Viola, didn't he?
I get the feeling this might not be the right time to probe him about her.
Okay, so we can press and then leave it. Okay, so we've got a little... It's too dangerous to press things without knowing where they might end up. Just focus on gathering information.
My time ain't free, you hear? You's better remember that. If I miss that bus, someone's gonna pay.
It's gonna be me. I'm gonna be paid. Nothing about no murder.
Are you sure about that? We're talking about 1 month ago, you know.
You see these teeth? That's how sharp my secretary is.
Sharp? Is he talking about Viola Cadaverini?
She writes everything in my scheduler. December, mainly in the office. That's what it says. So that's where I was.
That seems like a rather sketchy schedule.
There he goes again. What the tiger did all December isn't the issue. What's important is what he was doing on the day of the murder. So, now what?
We're pressing this one.
Mr. Tigre.
What yous want?
If you wouldn't mind going into a bit more detail.
This is a dead end, right? And you know it. Remember the rules.
No, it's essential that we establish the witness's alibi accurately.
I agree.
The victim was killed on December 3rd. Were you in the office that day too?
Maybe yous ain't listening. Of course I was. I never set foot outside. I had meetings all day with a bunch of cats wanting to do business with me. I ain't never seen that young kid before.
I do believe the witness's last statement was important. Mr. Godot, if you could please.
Mr. Tigre, the court asks you to add that last statement to your testimony. Don't let an animal beat you. Be a man, Your Honor, and ask him yourself.
Okay, bye. Have fun, Tiara. Luckily, we have evidence about this one. But I forget exactly which one it is. Is it the one photo where we have this, the calendar? Okay, it does say meet the tiger on here. So, sorry, bucko, but you're wrong. Yeah, have a good rest of your day, Tiara. Always good to have you around.
Mr. Tigre, you claim you didn't know about Mr. Glenn Elg. But it appears that Mr. Elg knew you. What? Mr. Elg left this little note on his calendar. Meet with the tiger. And the date? December 3rd.
December 3rd? That's the day of the murder!
So, Mr. Tigre, I submit that you did indeed know one Mr. Glenn Elg. Because on the very day of the incident, you met with him. Not bad. You's actually not bad. Sorry? I was just messing with yous to see how good you were.
Did you hear that, Nick? He said you're not bad.
That's one compliment I can do without. Plus, he's lying through his teeth.
Witness, please remember that you're under oath. Lies will not be tolerated.
You's calling me a liar? Is that what you doing?
Ruh-roh!
Oh, ruh-roh, Raggy.
Fucking ruh-roh!
So you're saying that your claim to have never seen that kid before is the truth? I said I'm dead serious. You's better believe that's the truth. Then I'd say that gives me time to enjoy another cup of pure black magic. That is, while you testify to the court again, Mr. Tigre.
Oh yes, would you mind indulging the court, witness?
He never actually met the victim. That's gotta be a lie right there. It's time I nailed this guy. I ain't no liar. I never met Glenn Elg. There was some lame guy with that name, though. Wanted to borrow cash from me. I set up a meeting with the guy at my office, Tender Lender. I waited around for him, but he ain't never showed. I ain't never been to that Trade Bien joint. You's here?
I see. That all seems perfectly logical. We'd arranged to meet with the victim, but he didn't show up.
I've heard it's pretty hard to keep up appointments when you're dead.
Very well. You may begin your cross-examination, Mr. Wright.
Yes, Your Honor. Didn't I tell you I got a big deal going down today? I ain't gonna make my bus now. I'm gonna have to take the express train. That bill's going straight to you, right? Alright, am I allowed to press now? I don't even know if I want to. I don't want to do this guy's voice any more than I have to.
let's press this one, because this is obviously, we have the matchbook to prove this wrong. So let's go with it. Let's just give it a shot. It's not much.
Never. Not even once. Not even once. I was in my office the day that went down. I didn't put no poison in no kid's coffee. Capiche?
You think you really didn't meet Glen Elg?
Not likely. Because I'm convinced this guy's behind the whole thing.
So you mean that whole testimony he gave was a lie?
Of course. So we can't afford to give him time to think of ways to plug the leaks in it. I've got to nail him while I still can.
All right. Well, let's just go. Let's just. Oh shoot! I've one too many. So yeah, we're just gonna get right through this because I don't want to do this guy's voice too much. It's hard. It hurts me.
Mr. Tigre, is there something you'd like to tell the court about these matches?
Oh my god! I can't believe it. He's sitting up there. That's the guy.
Matches? What you's talking about?
We found them in your office at Tinderlinder. They're from that restaurant.
Ooh.
If you've really never been to Tribulations before.
What was a book of the restaurant's matches doing on your desk? You's been snooping around in my stuff too, wise guy. What are you, my ball and chain? Ain't no broad controlling me. What?
Order! Order! Well, witness, I think it's time you started telling us the truth, don't you? I'm sorry, tell me sorry, forgive me.
I ain't no pussycat. I don't go back on what I said. But okay, I was at the joint that day.
What?
But listen good, alright? I might have been there, but I still never met that kid.
Well, well.
Right, wrong voice.
Well, looks like an order just came in for another testimony. I'm this close to proving it was him. He did meet Glen Elg that day, and he did put poison in his coffee. He must have. I was supposed to meet with the kid at the restaurant that afternoon. When I opened the door to the joint, I saw one ugly scene. The guy was laid out over the table, stiff as concrete. I figured if the place wasn't hot already, it was gonna be. So I split. I heard the cops' sirens on my way out, and I went straight back to my office.
All right, we're just gonna have to press his shit. You didn't actually meet with him, huh?
Well, Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Hold it! If I wait around here any longer, I ain't even gonna make the normal express. No more stupid questions. Ha! No problem. Anytime Wright presses you on something irrelevant, I'll see he pays a penalty.
Mr. Godot, that's my job.
Your job is to slam that little hammer of yours and call a guilty verdict. So do it.
Yes, sir.
The Special Express ain't cheap, right? Just so yous know, since yous payin'.
Oh man, doesn't the rule of law mean anything around here?
Clearly not. I mean, look at this guy. That afternoon, when I opened the door to the joint, I saw one ugly scene. It was laid out over the table, stiff as concrete. Figured if the place wasn't hot already, it was gonna be, so I split. Heard the cops' sirens on my way out, and I went straight back to my office. What do you think? He's running out of ways to avoid the truth.
I need to press him fast before he has time to think things through. Gotta come right back at him with a contradiction.
Be careful what you press him on, though, or you'll get penalized, okay?
Wait, 1 second. I gotta take another drink of water. Ah. Gosh, alright, so... So what are we doing here? Supposed to meet with the kid. Let's try and press him and see if we can get the same sort of hint. Meeting wasn't due to take place at Tinderlander at all then?
The kid was making a fuss about coming into the office. It's always that way when I want to talk about my repayments. Even though I got the best punching bag you ever seen, if there are any issues.
Maybe it's because of the punching bag that people are scared to come. And so that's why you decided to meet at Tribulations.
Ha! You're going over old ground again, Wright.
Sorry.
Oh shit. We can't even do it. You will suck down the penalty and you will like it. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Well, this sucks. Saw one ugly scene. I was laid out over the table, stiff as concrete. The place wasn't hot already. It was gonna be. I heard the cops' sirens on my way out, and I went straight back to my office. I don't know. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Sorry guys. I'm just still under the weather, I guess. So, I mean, we can take the hit. When I opened the door to the joint, saw one ugly scene. I was laid on the table, stiff as concrete. This place was hot already. I was gonna be. So what? We only got 4 things. I guess it's not that much. We can save and tank it if I make a bad decision. So one ugly scene. The guy was laid out over the table, stiff as concrete. These are the 2 claims he makes. The guy was laid out over the table. The place wasn't hot already. It was gonna be. This is just gonna be, oh, what was the ugly scene? We'll let him get to it. Penalty. I can already see it in my mind. Let's try this one.
You mean you saw Glenn Elg's dead body?
I guess I did, but I only saw him from behind. He was wearing some raggy bit of cloth he called a hat.
And what time was this?
I don't know.
Huh?
You know what winds me up more than anything in this world? Watches! Round watches! I ain't gonna pollute my paws with some ticking henpecker.
Out of interest, Mr. Tigray, what winds you up the second most?
Huh? What do you think? Square watches.
Is this guy for real? Oh, I needed to know that something bad was going down in that place. I might just have to read it in a normal voice, guys. I'm sorry. Even Phoenix is giving me trouble. Okay, so I didn't get penalized for that one. Well, that's good. So you didn't actually set foot inside the restaurant then? The tiger's a busy cat. I don't hang around for no one. I ain't got time to be caught up in no murder investigation. So when exactly did you pick up the matches? Their matches just inside the front door. Our detective friend wound up in trouble with the chef after taking 5 books home. Poor Gumshoe. It's almost enough to make a man cry. These are the only so that didn't help. What do you think? He's running out of ways to avoid the truth. I need to press him fast before he has time to think things through. I'm right back at him with a contradiction. Okay, so there is something to show him. What evidence do we have? We have this. Magazine clipping, job listing. Scooter. John's loan contract. Estimate. Blueprints. No, that doesn't help. Glenn's autopsy. Photo taken at the scene. Coffee cup. The lottery ticket. Found on Maggie. Poison. Prescription bag. Paper badge. MC bomber. Millionaire radio. Viola's medical papers. What the hell am I supposed to do? Place wasn't hot already. It was gonna be. So I split. I don't know. Clearly there's supposed to be something. Okay, let's go through it again. We've got. No, let's start with his. Let's start with his claims. So he was supposed to meet the kid with the restaurant. We know that. Evidence lines up with that. Open the door. I saw an ugly scene. The guy was laid out over the table. Figured if the place wasn't hot already, it was gonna be. So I split. Heard the cop sirens on my way out. I went straight back to my office. Well, I can't prove either of those things. Saying he left immediately and no one saw him. And no one did see him. So that's all. It's all the same. Can I prove that he didn't see the body? Oh, hey, there's a barrier. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute. Hey, wait a minute. Yeah, there's totally a big wall there. Oh, check out this wall, jerkus. I guess that's what this is on the thing. Yeah, there's a big wall, idiot. Check out that wall. Oh no, wait, well that was wrong? I'm not sure I follow you. It's clearly not a unique dialogue. Oh geez, oh gosh. I saw one ugly scene. You didn't see it. Maybe it's the floor plans? Because that's more clear?
Yes!
You're something of a loan collecting pro, aren't you, Mr. T. Gray?
No one escapes the tiger's clutches.
Well, I'm something of a lie detecting pro. And no one escapes the Phoenix's clutches. I think it's time we got something straight.
What's this, Wright? A new line of irrelevant questioning?
And these are the floor plans of the crime scene. You say you were standing at the entrance, Mr. T. Gray? From there, your field of vision would have covered an area something like this.
Indeed, the witness would have had a clear view of the victim's seat.
Isn't that what I just said? I saw the back of the kid's head.
Unfortunately for you, that is not possible. If the court would think back, you'll remember that between each of the tables is a tall partition.
Why, that's true.
Now look at the plans again. The truth is painfully obvious. From the entrance, the field of vision of any customer walking in ends here. So, from the entrance of Tribulations, you couldn't have seen the victim's seat. But you did see the victim that day, because you met with him.
Wrong. Have you forgotten the old man's testimony yesterday? The victim was alone at his table.
But the defense just proved that point to be moot. The victim witnessed by Mr. Kudo was not Glenn Elg, but a fake.
What?
In order to have Mr. Kudo falsely testify, the real killer posed as the victim he had just killed and acted out a charade.
That will do. This trial has gone on long enough without the obvious question being answered. Who exactly was this real killer? Who impersonated the victim? You say the killer murdered Glenn Elg, and then impersonated his victim in a performance for Victor Kudo. In that case, Mr. Wright, reveal the identity of this criminal to the court!
Well, it's him. It's the guy. You can, like, see his face. Obviously. The killer is Furio Tigre. No one else could have done it.
What? Well, witness?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can help you out with that. So, shoot, I'll have to look it up. Actually, I can just look it up real fast. We can break real fast here. Let's go to Twitch.tv. I forget where the setting is. But it's in there. Is it in settings? So go to settings and go to moderation. In your well, first click on your little person and go to like your stream thing where it shows you like all the like video producer creator dashboard. That's what it's called. So go to the creator dashboard and then you can go down to settings and click on moderation and block hyperlinks and auto mod rules will be on there. So you can fix those things as you desire. You can just that should solve your problem, because I was having that problem too. I wanted people to be able to post links, but it didn't like it. Yeah, there you go. No problem, man. Always happy to help.
Now that's cute. You think you can pin this on the tiger? Maybe you don't understand. The tiger is the king of the jungle. So I dares you to say it again. Come on, you got the guts.
You can't threaten me, Mr. Tigre. It's the defense. Go ahead and tell the witness, Mr. Wright. Mr. Wright?
Sounds to me like it must be you, old man. You's got guts. I'll give you that.
Mr. Wright, do not leave me to handle this alone.
Perhaps I can end this embarrassment.
Mr. Godot.
Let's just go back over Mr. Kudo's testimony one more time. The old man didn't just see the victim. Oh, no.
The serving girl. But she put something in it. I can't believe it.
Was the victim he saw the real victim or not? That doesn't matter. The fact remains that he saw the accused put the poison into the coffee.
Yes, it was the waitress.
Very impressive, Mr. Godot. Waiting for my absence to launch your attack. Ha! Found your pen at last, Wright. It was in my pocket. But anyway, Mr. Kudo witnessed two people that day. He saw the victim, the supposed Mr. Glenn Elg, and the waitress from behind.
Yes, your point, Mr. Wright.
I think the conclusion is obvious. If this Glenn Elg was really the killer in disguise, then surely it's possible the waitress was also part of the show.
What? You mean the waitress was an imposter as well?
The defendant, Miss Bird, fell unconscious immediately after the incident. Then someone used her fainting to hatch an elaborate plan to pin the murder on her.
Who on earth was it? Who was this waitress that Mr. Kudo witnessed?
Well, I'll tell ya. A thoroughly bitter person. Jeez, that's just rude. I don't think she's very bitter. She doesn't seem that bitter. She's like, I don't know. She's not angry. She's not like vitriolic.
Who is this woman?
Her name is Viola Cadaverini. She's an employee of Tender Lender. You's making a big mistake. You know who Violetta's grandfather is? You better be going home in an armored truck tonight, if you know what I mean.
Stop shaking, Nick.
Where was I? Yes, the defendant, Miss Bird, has stated the following.
Well, when I took the coffee over to the victim's table, it's true there was another customer in the restaurant. She was sort of creepy. And she had a kind of cackling laugh.
There are just too many contradictions in this case. The second man at the victim's table, who nobody but Miss Bird seems to have seen. The earpiece worn by the victim in his left ear when that eardrum was ruptured. And the radio show he was supposedly listening to half an hour after it was over. There's only one logical explanation that clears up all of these contradictions. The whole incident took place twice. Once for real, and once for show. And, Mr. Furio Tigre, the only person who could have committed the crime is you.
Witness? What have you got to say?
That's cute.
Sorry?
You so right. I could do with a guy like you around.
Nope. Oh, the scratching is back. Woo. We're gonna make it through. We're gonna do this.
What?
There's so much. He needs to stop talking.
Batman, I'm your ultimate arch enemy, the chewing clown.
Chewing Clown is my favorite Batman villain. What do you mean?
Okay, I'm in on this game. I'm gonna have to charter a jet to get me to my meeting now, but I'm gonna give yous one more thing to think about before I go.
Something to think about.
You's got it all wrapped up nice, alright. But you's missed out on one real important thing.
But that can't be.
I was in the joint that day, and I met that kid too. But I couldn't have poisoned him, you see?
What? Do you really expect us to believe you now, Mr. Tigre?
Ha! What a troublemaker.
Troublemaker.
Looks like we're going to need another one for the road. What? One more steaming cup of a hot testimony.
Indeed. Witness, you will explain yourself to the court. I will give you one more chance to testify. What happened that day at Tribulations between yourself and the victim?
Alrighty.
Alrighty then. Yeah, I loaned Elg cash. About $100,000. That day, we was due to have a little chat. The kid had hit his payback date, see?
Yeah, 100,000 Californian dollars. Good old USD, baby.
So anyway, he tells me he's got no way to pay up. I'm about to flatten the guy when he starts screaming. Yes, I won $500,000. He got lucky, you know. Real lucky.
Yeah. NCR money, not nearly as valuable as Legion money. It's fiat currency. How embarrassing.
If that waitress hadn't done what she done, everything would have been over.
Now, I see that the principal amount you loaned to Mr. Elg was $50,000.
Yeah, well, you's got the vig to take into account. Interest builds up fast, you know.
That's faster than fast. $100,000 is twice his principal.
And the repayment deadline was December 3rd, the day of the incident in question.
Yeah, he was one lucky kid. He got that $500,000 just in time. So I ain't have no reason to kill the kid. And if I ain't got no motive, you ain't got no case.
His motive? He has to have one. But what is it? All right, ties to the victim. He loaned him cash. Due to have a little chat, he had hit the payback date. He tells me he's got no way to pay up. About to flatten him when he starts screaming. I won it, $500,000. He got lucky, you know, real lucky. If that waitress hadn't done what she done, everything would have been over. The waitress, you mean?
The girl with the glasses in the defendant's chair. Who else could I mean? If she hadn't gotten away, things would have been bada bing, bada boom, over and done with.
Maybe I should push a little on this. How would have things been? Because what did Maggie do? Well, she killed him. It's just like, she killed him, blah. What do you mean things would have been over and done with?
Now you saw there or what? I'm talking about the cash. I was there to get my $100,000 back. That's all. I'm a businessman. It was all coming together. Before that waitress got in the way.
As far as I could tell from the witness's testimony, other than recouping his loan, Mr. Tigre had no motive for killing the victim. Witness, you will amend your testimony to reflect what you just said.
The tiger's motive, huh? I didn't have no other reason to kill the guy. Well, that's not true. Are you saying you had no other motives that day?
Yeah, so what? Then why didn't you take the lottery ticket when you left? Why'd you think? Because of Four Eyes over there.
Because of Maggie?
How about you go ask Four Eyes about that $500,000 ticket?
Oh, excuse me.
She wanted it so bad. She poisoned Elg's coffee.
A likely theory. Your word hasn't held water lately, Mr. Tigre.
Let's not forget that this witness was actually at the scene, right? The law don't exactly agree with some of the deals I sent down. I couldn't be there when the cops showed up, so I split.
I see.
Your Honor. What? The witness's last few statements are worth a good 2 cups of coffee.
Well, Mr. Wright, are you happy with the testimony, or would you like it amended?
Leave it. I better leave it at that and try to figure something out. Thank you, Your Honor, but there's no need to amend the testimony.
Very well. Continue with your cross-examination.
So the tiger was meeting Glenn Elg to get his money back. If Mr. Elg had just given him the lottery ticket, that would have been the end of it.
Yeah. So what's the tiger's motive? This is the big one. If I don't manage to undermine this testimony, it's all over for us. Why would he have to poison Mr. Elg? And why did he loan him the money in the first place when he knew he couldn't repay him? Yeah, so clearly he didn't want the money. He wanted the bomber disc. So you just intended to get back the $100,000 Mr. Elg owed you, correct? Yeah, he wants the matches. It's important.
I loaned the guy the cash, so that's my right.
Unfortunately for Mr. Elg, I don't believe the $100,000 is what you were really after.
What are you getting at, Wright? What else would a moneylender be after, other than money?
Oh, the moneylender was after money. But money in a totally different league.
The kind of money that a single disc like this would fetch.
What is that?
A computer virus, Your Honor. A virus called MC Bomber.
A computer virus? What does one of those do?
A computer virus is a program that wreaks havoc on the insides of a computer.
A computer? What does one of those do?
I guess the beard isn't the only part of His Honor that's from the Stone Age. Blah, blah, blah. That is from the Stone Age. That's such a weird way to say that. I'll explain it to you later, Your Honor. Right now, this is the important point. A virus like MC Bomber would be worth several $1 million on the black market.
Several $1 million?
Lending money with no hope of ever seeing repayment would normally be bad for business. But in this case, the very fact that Glenn Elg had no way to repay the money is crucial.
What?
Glenn Elg was a programmer, a highly skilled programmer. That skill was the collateral Mr. Elg put up in order to borrow the money. You're trying to suggest that the witness's motive was to get a hold of that program? Exactly. What? The witness may have poor fashion sense, but he is by no means an idiot, Wright. A man like him could get his hands on $1 million without resorting to murder. Of course he could, provided that he had time. But what if he had needed the money right then? When the pressure's on, the luxury of choice tends to disappear.
It seems you have a logical conclusion for this fit theory, Mr. Wright. Would you care to share it with us? Why did Mr. Tigray need money to the tune of $1 million?
Well, not $1 million specifically, but now that you mention it. In December of last year, you found yourself in need of a huge amount of money. About 6 months ago, you were involved in a traffic accident, weren't you? An accident involving a car and a scooter, in which a young woman was injured. She was taken to the hospital, where she underwent surgery.
How much of this do you know?
These medical papers document the treatment of the young woman in question. According to these, her operation cost $1 million. And yet, when the payment was due last month, you somehow managed to pay it in full.
$1 million? A preposterous sum! Someone should sue these HMOs!
Ha! No one would pay a bill like that. If the medical association got wind of it, the hospital would end up as dead as a morgue.
But Mr. Tigray had no choice but to pay, because his very life depended on it.
Order! Order! You say his life depended on it, Mr. Wright.
Indeed it did, simply because the injured woman was none other than Viola Cadaverini.
Did you say Cadaverini?
Bruto Cadaverini, mob boss in charge of all underworld activities in the city, and doting grandfather to his precious Violetta, also known as Viola Cadaverini. Your life was in danger unless you paid compensation to the boss, correct? It makes sense.
Ooh, I'm Tony the Tiger. Better look myself up on the internet. Oh no! Ooh.
You were desperate to acquire the $1 million Bruto Cadaverini demanded of you. So desperate, in fact, that you decided to sacrifice Glen Elg's life to pay your debt. On the day of the murder, Mr. Tigre's sole intention was to get his hands on this CD. Glen Elg had no way of paying back the $100,000, and Mr. Tigre knew it. But then a miracle happened.
What? The miracle happened. Where is it? Is this what? No. Yeah, the miracle happened. The new miracle never happened.
But then the miracle happened. The kind that Mr. Tigre would prefer to say never happened. But he can't, and neither can I. The lottery win. Exactly. At the 11th hour, Mr. Elg won $500,000 on the lottery, which left Mr. Tigre with no way of getting his hands on the all-important CD. At least, no legitimate way. So he resorted to illegitimate means. That's crazy. He murdered Glen Elg, and then made his next move. To frame Maggie Bird for the crime. Mr. Tigre posed as Glen Elg, while Viola Cadaverini played the role of Miss Bird. And then they reenacted the whole thing in order to establish a witness. The witness being the one we all heard testify yesterday, Mr. Victor Kudo. Like I said, Wright, that's crazy. No one could pull off a stunt like that. For starters, there's no way the chef could have been kept in the dark about it. But Mr. Armstrong was in on it from the very beginning. Have you forgotten already, Mr. Godot? Mr. Armstrong owed the witness money too. $500,000, in fact. He had no choice but to go along with Mr. Tigre's plan.
Oh, he got interrupted. I couldn't read that.
You's put on a good show, Spiky. If yous want to stay alive in the loan shark business, you gotta be careful. You saying I dressed up like that kid, created a witness, and framed someone. If I did something crazy like that, I'd leave a trail as bright as my shirt. I ain't dumb enough to do something sloppy like that. I agree. You do? Despite your appearance, you are very careful. That's why you took one more precaution. One more trick to make sure Miss Bird had no way out.
What? Another one, Mr. Wright? Oh my god.
Interesting. Why don't you fill us all in, Wright? What was the trick you say Mr. Tigre performed to frame the accused?
I got it right here, boys.
And what's the relevance of that, Wright?
It's just a little intro.
An intro into what?
What? Come on, that's the trick. That's what he did. What are you talking about? That's the thing he did. This is bullshit. That's literally the trick that he pulled.
Mr. Tigre did play a trick, a huge trick, and it's literally the one I tried to just tell you about. What, are you insane? Do you have a brain to think with? All right, well, I guess we won't tell them what the trick was. We'll just come up with something else.
We'll create something entirely separate from what this entire case has been about.
Sure, we'll just do that.
Yeah, there's definitely something else in here that has evidence for what the fuck are you talking about?
That's the trick.
What? Where's the what?
Okay, so where are we right now? Mr. T. Gray dressed up as the guy. They performed this whole thing. They lured Kudo to the thing to do a performance. What else besides the performance did you do? Nothing. You did nothing. Did you what? You hid this thing? That's not a trick. That's hiding evidence. That's not a trick. Boo, stupid. What? This is the thing. This is the thing that you did. Oh. No. This shitty piece of cardboard that's not evidence that I could have made myself. That Phoenix could have just cut him. That's not I'm gonna be mad if I hit this and this is correct, and instead of the actual description of the thing that went on, that you could easily explain what it's all about, they want something that is entirely separate that no one would understand if you showed them. I'm gonna be so mad.
Well, let's test it. Let's see what do you think the answer is, video game?
Is it the relevant evidence?
I don't think it is.
Oh my god. They asked what the trick was. I answered it. That's wrong. They ask what the trick was. I show them a piece of cardstock that I pull out of my freaking coat that I drew a little doodle on. That's not a trick. That's not the thing that they asked for. And that's not what Phoenix said. That's so stupid. I'm upset. I'm upset right now. I think they should have phrased the question differently and not asked for what I gave them. Dummies. Then again, we all know that this version of the translation sucks ass. It's got constant typos. Like major typos. Several in the same, like, trial. What a nightmare.
What on earth is that? What an insult to think anyone could be fooled by such a childish imitation.
Consider yourself insulted, Your Honor. Mr. T. Gray, you didn't just pose as the victim on the day in question. A month ago, in this very court, you posed as me.
What? That's...
The truth.
But the witness looks nothing like you, Mr. Wright. Although, now that I think about it, it was you, wasn't it? No doubt it was you, standing in here, this very court, a mere month ago. The Phoenix Wright who put up the most disreputable, shabby defense I had ever seen.
Can you prove that, Gramps? Prove the attorney who represented the accused here a month ago was this man. Are you prepared to take the stand and testify it was him? Hey, forget about it, yeah? I wouldn't do something like that, not me. You made a mistake, right? It was someone else. Have you no pride, sir? This isn't a matter of pride. In case you didn't know, Wright, here in court, we deal with people's lives. Ugh.
Mr. Godot is right.
Your Honor.
Speaking for myself, I am absolutely convinced. The attorney in question was the witness standing before me now. However, I preside over this court as the judge, with the vested power to hand down a verdict. Someone in my position cannot be swayed by a memory without evidence to support it.
No!
If the defense has no further evidence, the court will now excuse the witness. The circumstances surrounding Mr. Tigre are dubious for sure, but not conclusive.
But we've come so far.
You say he impersonated Glenn Elg. You say he impersonated you. But none of that adds up to a murder charge. You don't have a shred of evidence that the witness poisoned the victim's coffee. Ah! Sucks to be you, right? Don't mess with the tiger, or you're gonna get mauled. You's got that? All we managed to do here was chase him around a bit. I was so close to getting him to admit his own guilt. Ha! Looks like I won't be needing a refill. If I just had one more piece of evidence. One more piece of evidence, and maybe I could get Maggie off the hook.
This witness's cross-examination is over. You are free to go, Mr. Tigre.
Hold it! Your Honor, sir. Wait!
Detective?
You got a cool CG. Way to go, Gumshoe. We're proud of you.
Detective Gumshoe. Sorry I took so long, pal. I staked everything on this. My badge, the works. So here it is. My heart's counting on this, too.
What is it, Detective?
Isn't it obvious, pal? It's the final, decisive piece of evidence.
What?
Sorry it took so long, pal, but I finally got the results back from the lab. The results? About the prints, pal, from this medicine bottle.
Oh, so do you know who the prints belong to now?
Do you think I'm some kind of hack detective? Of course I know.
So tell us. They're the tigers, right? I knew it.
You bet. Clear as crystal, all over the bottle. They're Furio Tigre's paw prints, all right.
That's great. We've got him now, Nick. What's wrong with you? You've hardly said a word since Detective Gumshoe got here. He's laid everything on the line for this, Nick.
I know. Look, I'm sorry. This is kind of hard to say, but it really doesn't make any difference whose prints are on that bottle now. Huh? What? Why not? What we need to produce at this stage in the trial is irrefutable evidence that the tiger put poison in Glenn Eld's coffee. He's already admitted that he met the victim. The fact that his prints are on this bottle, that really doesn't make any difference now. I know it. Great. No matter how hard I try, I'm never of any use.
Hey, don't be so hard on yourself.
This was our last chance to help Maggie. And I've been working on some useless piece of evidence the whole time. It's alright. I'm a real loser. Not breaking news to me, pal.
Detective Gumshoe? Maggie! You've been working on something for me?
Sorry I let you down, Maggie. I know you didn't do it. And I'm a detective. We're supposed to be able to prove stuff like that. I'm really sorry. I'll get out of your hair now.
Detective Gumshoe, wait!
He's gone.
Isn't there anything we can do now, Nick?
I wish there was. Gumshoe worked so hard to get that evidence. If only there was some way I could use it.
Covered in Furio Tigre's fingerprints. Oh, I'm not sure. I wasn't even looking over there. All right. You know,
Mr. Wright?
Yes, Your Honor.
I granted you a recess so you could prepare this decisive evidence you've discovered.
Yes.
Don't keep us all in suspense, Wright. Show us. Naturally. We can assume it's evidence that will actually stand up in court, can't we?
Think, Phoenix. Don't let Gumshoe's hard work go to waste.
How much more of my time are you gonna waste? I ain't been to no court before. But you lawyers should know how to blow things out of proportion.
don't worry. We'll just lie. Sure, this is the poison. You did it. Or maybe we could say they're Violetta's fingerprints. Now that'd be a twist. And he'd be like, oh shit. Oh shit, they're gonna pin this on her. And I'm gonna die. That might be what happens too. I'm convinced we're just gonna have to lie though.
No doubt, given the nature of the evidence, it will speak for itself. Nevertheless, you will talk us through it, Mr. Wright.
Well, I know I can't prove anything new with this evidence. I'm really backed into a corner here. But maybe if he thinks he's got me beat, he'll let his guard down a bit.
Don't keep us waiting any longer, Mr. Wright. Present this final, decisive piece of evidence to the court.
And this is the defense's final piece of evidence.
Isn't that the victim's?
Your Honor, naturally, the court is already aware of the contents of this bottle. However, interesting new information has come to light. We have clearly identified some fingerprints on it. Fingerprints belonging to you, Mr. Tigre.
What?
But Mr. Wright, what conclusion are you hoping to draw from this new information?
Everyone in here knows what this bottle contains. Except one man. One person in this courtroom should, theoretically, be in the dark.
My prints are on that pansy-looking bottle. Is that what you saying? Well, what the hell's in it anyway?
A phony trial, a phony lawyer, and phony clues. Everything about this case has been phony. Seems like the perfect excuse for some phony evidence. Yeah! Mr. Tigre, this is the decisive piece of evidence that will prove your guilt. Why? Because it contains... This bottle contains potassium cyanide.
Potassium cyanide?
The poison used to murder Mr. Elg, Your Honor. The victim's killer used this very bottle. And on this bottle, Mr. Tigre, we found your fingerprints. Well, how do you explain that? You make a good clown, you know that? What? Yous ain't never gonna get this to stick. Yous just making me laugh now. You think a cheap bluff like that's gonna fool the tiger? A bluff? I can see straight through you, Phoenix Wright. That ain't the bottle with the cyanide in it. No, this is the bottle we found traces of the poison in. Don't mess with the tiger, or you're gonna get ripped to shreds. The cyanide bottle was brown, and it was made of glass. That cheap piece of trash don't look nothing like it. Huh? Uh-huh. Got him. At last. What? Why is everyone gone quiet? I said that bottle... Is this the bottle you're referring to? Yeah, that's it. That's the bottle the cyanide was in. But you ain't gonna find my prints on that bottle. Don't let that cozy looking suit fool you people. That lawyer's just playing games. Tell him, Mr. Prosecutor. Tell that guy where to go. You still haven't figured it out. Don't you realize what you just said? What I said? What did I just say? You were summoned to this court for the first time earlier today. If you really had nothing to do with the murder, you shouldn't have known all the little details. For instance, you shouldn't have known what kind of bottle the potassium cyanide was in. But just now, you slipped up in front of every single person in this courtroom. You described the exact bottle used by the killer to hold the poison. Yous don't know who yous messing with. I'm the tiger. I control millions of dollars on the black market. Yous think I'm gonna let some jumped up suit get the better of me? Sure, the last piece of evidence was phony. But that's just what you deserve. The phony trial with a phony lawyer. It was all played out by you, the biggest phony of all. Yo! What?
What's going on?
It looks like a blackout.
Well done, Wright. I saved my 17th cup of coffee just for you. Savor it.
while you watch the police restrain your prey.
Thanks a lot, bud. One of these days, I'm gonna get you people on assault for just beating the crap out of me.
Mr. Wright, you caught a tiger by his toe. But if this one hollers, he won't be let go. Now then, how are things going with Mr. Tigre, Mr. Godot?
He is being arrested on suspicion of the murder of Glenn Elg, Your Honor.
Fortunately for us, we managed to rectify a very grave error. Miss Bird was found guilty in the absence of a genuine defense attorney.
Yes, she was. And in the absence of genuine evidence. But the tiger made one mistake.
Indeed. He very nearly got away with everything if it wasn't for that one slip of the tongue. Furio Tigre is a truly frightening criminal.
Ha! The truly frightening one is that defense attorney over there. Godot.
Well, I am now in a position to deliver my verdict. This court finds the defendant, Maggie Bird, not guilty.
Hell yeah. We did it, gamers.
That is all. The court is adjourned.
Ching! Nailed it!
Mr. Wright, I'm at a loss for words. Thank you, sir. Congratulations, Maggie. I was so mad when Mr. Wright landed me in all that trouble a month ago, but now I feel like I can forgive him.
Hey, that wasn't me, Maggie. That was the tiger.
Look, Nick, in the doorway.
Detective Gumshoe. Oh yeah, that's an ashtray. That thing over there. Wait! I'm pretty sure. I mean, it looks like an ashtray. It's a little weird, though. It does kind of look like a motorcycle headlight suspended on a pole for no reason.
Detective Gumshoe.
Yeah. Congratulations, Maggie.
Thanks.
I knew you were innocent all along.
Why didn't you say that in your testimony then?
Huh? Oh, well, I was... Well, yeah, she'll be heading off then. See you around.
Wait up, detective. He just ran off.
Maggie, why are you being so hard on him? He busted his butt for you. It's thanks to him that we got the medication bottle. That wasn't even of any use. But it's only because Mr. Wright used it so cleverly. Detective Gumshoe was just running around in circles.
Poor guy. Looks like she still isn't ready to forgive him.
Can't you put in a good word for him, Nick?
Yeah, Maya's right. I should help Gumshoe out. It's clear he needs it. Maggie? You know, Detective Gumshoe's been really worried about you through all this.
I wanted to believe that, sir. But on that first day of the trial, he practically gave the judge a free pass to lock me up.
He didn't have any choice, Maggie. He's a detective. He has to report the facts.
He doubted me, that's why. He thought I might have done it.
I've got to prove to her that Gumshoe really cares about her. I know. I'll give her a little present to celebrate her freedom. Here you are. A present to celebrate your freedom.
That's...
A present from Detective Gumshoe. Made with a ton of love.
He said you lost weight, and he was worried about you. Detective Gumshoe. I I actually really like weenies, you know? Did you guys hear that? I'm pretty hungry myself, you know?
Yeah, the trial dragged on a bit today, didn't it?
Is it okay if I eat this now? So, how is it, Maggie? It's really good.
Look at her, she loves it. The little wiener dogs.
So, the case of phony versus genuine comes to an end. The false allegations surrounding Maggie have all been cleared up. And who knows, maybe a whole new chapter of her life is about to start.
Yeah. Glorious detailed CG of hot dog water. It's very important. Appropriate that recipe for turnabout should end with a dish. Hey, look who the fuck it is. Hey, look who's our guy. Hey, look who it is. This dumbass. Who would have thought, huh? Who would have thought? Who would have thought?
Not me.
Well, that's it for today. We've made pretty good time on that. Oh, and I'm glad that that the tiger stopped talking so much around the second half of the trial. Case 4 is short. Oh, interesting. Well, I'll be interested to see what the deal is. Next time on Dragon Ball Z. It'll be fun to see. I will see you all tomorrow for Virtue's Last Reward. And yeah, that's it. Have a great Thursday. I'm gonna go and have honey or something. Take it easy, y'all. Yeah, peace, man.